Malaika was born in a small, underdeveloped village where life's hardships kept her dreams from ever coming to fruition. The village lacked development, and poverty was widespread. Her father was a laborer who worked tirelessly to provide for his family. Despite their struggles, Malaika always harbored a desire to escape her impoverished circumstances and live a better life. From a young age, Malaika's beauty was renowned throughout the village. Her deep, dark eyes and olive complexion captivated everyone who saw her. However, she always held one ambition in her mind: wealth and prosperity. Malaika had made a pact with herself in her childhood that she would use her beauty to change her fortunes. As Malaika grew older, she began forming friendships with the village boys. She observed how they fell for her beauty, but none of them seemed capable of fulfilling her dreams. Her aspirations were grand, and she was on the lookout for someone who could be the means to her wealth and fame. Amani came from a wealthy family well known throughout the city. His parents had always fulfilled his every wish, yet he felt an emptiness in his heart. His father ran a large business, and their influence was considerable in a small city. Despite his comfortable life, Amani felt a lack of something that could make him feel truly complete. Amani had always longed for true love. He had talked to many friends and family members about his search, but he never found the answer he was looking for. His parents wanted him to focus on his business and enhance the family name. However, Amani was dreaming of something else entirely. He was searching for someone who could bring joy and love into his life. One day, Amani had to travel to Malaika's village for business purposes. Upon arriving, he met Malaika, who ensnared him with her charm. At first sight, Amani was captivated by Malaika, and he fell deeply in love with her. He envisioned spending his entire life with her and was overwhelmed by feelings for Malaika. Malaika, too, recognized that Amani was the person who could fulfill her dreams. Through her conversation and beauty, she won Amani's heart. Amani felt that Malaika was the queen of his dreams, and he dedicated his life to her. He became so immersed in his love for Malaika that he no longer cared about his family or business. As days turned into weeks, Amani found himself falling more deeply in love with Malaika. Each encounter with her only intensified his feelings, and he became consumed by the thought of spending every possible moment in her presence. Malaika's beauty, grace, and the charm with which she carried herself captivated Amani in ways he had never experienced before. He admired her poise, her laughter, and the way her eyes seemed to sparkle with dreams. To Amani, Malaika was the embodiment of everything he had ever desired in a partner. The more time Amani spent with Malaika, the more he found himself opening up to her. He began sharing his thoughts, his fears, and his dreams with her. He sought her opinions on matters both trivial and significant, gradually allowing her to influence his decisions. Amani's love for Malaika was not just an infatuation, it had grown into a deep-seated need to have her by his side always. He envisioned a future where they would share not only their lives but also their dreams, goals, and ambitions. In his heart, Amani was convinced that Malaika was his soulmate, the one person who could complete him in every sense. He felt an inexplicable connection with her, one that he believed was fated. This overwhelming love led Amani to bring up the topic of marriage with his parents. He wanted their blessing, believing that they, too, would see what he saw in Malaika. Amani was certain that once his parents met her, they would understand the depth of his feelings and accept her as part of their family. However, Amani's parents did not share his enthusiasm. They had always been protective of their only son, and the sudden introduction of Malaika into his life raised concerns. They began to question Amani about her, probing into her background and her intentions. They were alarmed by how quickly Amani had become attached to this young woman from a modest background, someone who seemingly had little in common with their affluent and influential family. Amani's parents tried to reason with him, expressing their concerns about the relationship. They argued that Malaika's interest in him might be more about his wealth and status than genuine love. But Amani refused to listen. His feelings for Malaika were so strong that he dismissed his parents' concerns as baseless fears. He assured them that Malaika's love was pure and that she cared for him, not his wealth. Amani believed that his parents simply did not understand her the way he did. In the face of their growing opposition, Amani became more determined to prove them wrong. He began to withdraw from his parents, spending more time with Malaika and distancing himself from their advice. He saw their reluctance as an obstacle to his happiness, something that needed to be overcome rather than considered. Amani's world began to revolve entirely around Malaika, and he started to view any challenge to their relationship as a challenge to his own judgment and desires. As Amani's infatuation with Malaika deepened, so too did his parents' concerns. They watched helplessly as their once grounded son became increasingly enmeshed in a relationship they viewed as dangerous. Their initial unease grew into outright alarm as they observed the changes in Amani. He was neglecting his responsibilities, both to his family and to the business. His work, which had once been a source of pride, began to suffer as his focus shifted entirely to Malaika. The more Amani's parents learned about Malaika, the more their suspicions grew. They quietly began an investigation into her background, hoping to uncover something that might dissuade Amani from pursuing the relationship. What they discovered only confirmed their worst fears. Malaika came from a poor village, with a background that starkly contrasted with their own. Her family's financial struggles were well known, and there were whispers about her ambitions to escape her circumstances by any means necessary. Armed with this information, Amani's parents confronted him. They presented their findings, hoping that the stark difference in their backgrounds would open his eyes. They argued that Malaika was likely more interested in his wealth and the lifestyle it could offer than in Amani himself. They pointed out that she had nothing to lose and everything to gain from the relationship, while Amani had his entire future at stake. But Amani, blinded by love, refused to heed their warnings. He defended Malaika passionately, insisting that her love was genuine and that she cared for him, not his money. He accused his parents of being prejudiced and unable to see beyond their own narrow worldviews. To Amani, their concerns seemed unfounded and rooted in classism rather than any real understanding of Malaika's character. The situation reached a boiling point when Amani's parents demanded that he end the relationship. They told him in no uncertain terms that they would not support a marriage to Malaika, fearing that it would ruin both his life and their family's reputation. But Amani, now thoroughly entrenched in his love for Malaika, defied them. He declared that he would marry Malaika with or without their blessing. This defiance shocked Amani's parents. They had never seen their son so obstinate, so unwilling to listen to reason. The disagreement escalated into heated arguments, with both sides becoming more entrenched in their positions. Amani's parents, desperate to protect their son, warned him that if he continued down this path, he would be cut off from the family and its wealth. But even this threat did not sway Amani. He was prepared to give up everything for Malaika. The tension within the family became unbearable. Amani's parents, realizing that they were losing their son, were heartbroken. They could see the grip that Malaika had on him, and they feared that he was headed for disaster. Despite their efforts to reason with him, Amani remained steadfast in his decision, believing that his love for Malaika would triumph over all obstacles. In the end, Amani's relationship with his parents was left in tatters. The love and trust that had once bound them were replaced by anger, resentment, and a growing divide that seemed impossible to bridge. Amani, blinded by his emotions, could not see the pain he was causing his parents. For him, the only thing that mattered was his love for Malaika, a love that he believed would justify any sacrifice. When Amani made the decision to leave home against his parents' wishes, it was a shock like no other, one that would remain with them forever. They had never imagined that their son, who had always obeyed them, would one day leave their home. Amani's mother wept, pouring out all the sorrow in her heart, while his father's anger turned into a strange silence. But despite everything, Amani stood firm in his decision. For him, his love for Malaika was above all else, and this love had driven him away from his parents. Amani had resolved in his heart that he would start his life with Malaika, even if it meant leaving his parents behind. Despite his mother's tears and his father's anger, he walked out of the house. With a heavy heart, he left behind the memories of his childhood and everything he had known. For him, Malaika was now everything. For Malaika, Amani's sacrifice was proof of her victory. She made Amani a part of her life and found a place in his heart for her own goals. She made Amani feel that he was nothing without her and that if he wanted to achieve anything in life, he had to stay with her. Amani left everything behind and started a new life with Malaika. He abandoned his parents' name, their wealth, and his old life to move to a new city where they began their life together. In this new city, Amani and Malaika started their lives anew. Here, Amani distanced himself from his parents and his past identity, creating a new one. He left behind his wealth and family and embarked on a life with Malaika that was based solely on their love. Yet, deep down, the sorrow of leaving his parents always lingered in Amani's heart, becoming a permanent part of his new life. Amani and Malaika's wedding was one of the grandest and most splendid events the city had ever witnessed. Every moment of the ceremony was filled with vibrant lights and colors, and the entire city seemed to be draped in the joy of their celebration. Malaika's wedding attire sparkled with brilliance, and Amani spared no expense to make their wedding ceremony as beautiful as possible. They started their new life in a big city, where everything was luxurious and expensive. During their honeymoon, Amani showered Malaika with everything she had ever dreamed of. They visited the most beautiful and expensive places in the world, stayed at luxury resorts, and tried to make every moment memorable. Amani left behind everything he once had to spend the most beautiful moments of his life with Malaika. Malaika, too, appreciated Amani's love and sacrifice, and they spent these moments filled with love and affection. However, as the days of their marriage went by, Amani's business began facing financial difficulties. His business started to decline, and money became scarce. Amani had changed his habits and ideas to break away from his old life, but he struggled to cope with the new business challenges. When Malaika noticed this, her happiness and satisfaction began to diminish. Amani's financial struggles filled Malaika with stress and frustration. Malaika's heart started to harbor doubts and frustrations. She began to feel that staying with Amani was pulling her away from her true purpose. The thoughts of wealth and happiness had made her life difficult. Malaika also realized that due to Amani's financial problems, she could not fulfill her dreams. She started feeling anxious about her future plans and began to see every moment with Amani as a waste. Amani's business and health both began to deteriorate gradually. He also discovered health issues that required attention, and the doctor advised him to step back from work and rest. This advice only deepened Amani's depression and frustration. When Malaika saw that Amani's health and business were both failing, she tried to suppress her feelings even more. Malaika gradually started spending less time with Amani. She began focusing solely on her own happiness and comfort. Spending time with Amani and taking care of him started to feel boring and stressful to her. To escape Amani's financial and health issues, she immersed herself in her daily routines. She slowly distanced herself from talking to Amani, caring for him, and spending time with him. Amani tried to escape his problems by seeking solace with Malaika, but she pushed him away. Malaika refused to make Amani's financial and health problems a part of her life. She began to adjust her relationship with Amani and tried to steer her life in a new direction. This new approach from Malaika only deepened Amani's depression and loneliness. Malaika's growing distance and Amani's financial struggles created gaps and misunderstandings in their relationship. Amani tried to overcome his problems, but Malaika's behavior and attitude only made him feel more hopeless and upset. These new challenges and tensions marked the beginning of a new struggle in their lives. After hearing about their son's deteriorating condition, Amani's parents immediately embarked on a journey to see him. They learned that Amani's health was failing and his business had significantly declined. They decided to visit Amani and offer their assistance. Upon seeing their son, they realized that his condition had worsened further due to his marriage to Malaika. Amani's parents also tried to understand Malaika's true nature. They observed that Malaika seemed to be in the relationship with Amani purely for her own benefit. They recognized her materialistic and self-centered nature. They spoke to Amani, expressing their concern that Malaika was using him to fulfill her own dreams. Amani's parents made efforts to reason with him, but Amani, caught up in his emotions and love for Malaika, chose to ignore their advice. He started disregarding their concerns, believing that he needed their support. They decided to stay with their son, managing his business, addressing his financial problems, and providing him with emotional support. When Malaika saw that Amani's parents were now fulfilling his needs and supporting him, she realized that she needed to reevaluate her relationship. Malaika understood that to achieve her own happiness and life goals, she needed to distance herself from Amani. Malaika made a significant decision in her heart. She decided that she should leave Amani and seek new paths for herself. She had used her relationship with Amani to pursue her dreams, but now that the time had come for that phase to end, she felt it was time to turn the pages of her life and seek new beginnings. Malaika began to focus on her own dreams and ambitions. She decided to leave Amani and search for new opportunities for herself. She started pursuing her own goals and determined to give her life a new direction. Amani apologized to his parents and recognized his mistakes. He came to terms with his past errors and decided to take control of his life again. However, Malaika had already moved on, following her own aspirations and ambitions. Amani faced the consequences of his decisions, while Malaika began her journey toward fulfilling her own dreams and ambitions. After leaving Amani, Malaika began pursuing new paths in her life. She chased her dreams and ambitions, but life didn't always turn out as expected. After a few months, Malaika found that her new endeavors were not as easy as she had anticipated. She faced numerous challenges, and her decisions seemed to weigh heavily on her. One day, while Malaika was heading to a meeting for a new business venture, she encountered Amani in a crowded market. Seeing Amani stirred old feelings of desire within Malaika. She thought that Amani's business must have recovered, and she might be able to use him once again to achieve her goals. Malaika decided to approach Amani. She presented herself with her old charm and a coy smile, hoping that Amani would fall for her tricks once more. However, Amani had changed significantly. He saw Malaika but felt no trace of the old affection. Instead, he harbored anger and resentment. With a forced smile, Malaika said, "Amani, it's nice to see you. I need to talk to you." Amani responded with intense anger, "Malaika, what do you think? I no longer have a place in my life for people like you. You think you can manipulate me again? What are you even doing here?" Malaika was taken aback by Amani's transformed demeanor. She had hoped to regain control over Amani with her old tactics, but his change was a shock to her. Amani had learned from his past experiences and was no longer susceptible to Malaika's schemes. Amani made it clear that he had no room for people like Malaika in his life anymore. Malaika tried to rekindle their relationship, but Amani thwarted every attempt. He left her there, moving on with his life without any regrets. Malaika felt it was necessary to leave, but she was now aware of her own mistakes. She realized that what she had done to Amani had now come back to haunt her. She understood the consequences of her decisions and was left grappling with the results of her greed and desires. Conclusion: Malaika, facing the fallout of her manipulative actions, realized the emptiness of her pursuits and the consequences of her choices. Amani, having grown from his struggles, rejected Malaika's attempts at reconciliation, focusing on rebuilding his life with renewed strength and dignity. The chapter underscored the themes of personal growth and the impact of self-centered actions.